This episode of UDSP is brought to you by Audible. For a free 30-day trial and to receive a free audiobook. Just head on over to audible.com/GameBreaker. What's up, everybody? Welcome to episode 48 of UDSP, the WildStar Show. It's July 13th, 2014. Today we're going to talk about the strain update. It's a little bit old. We're going to talk about that a little bit. PvP balance, a bunch of changes are coming up in the works in that, and the adventure and dungeon reward issues. Joining me this week, Mr. Farhan Siddiqui. What's up, brother?
Hey, we're back.
We're back.
More shows.
Shows. We're back. Joining us this week is Mr. Justin Kennedy. How are you, sir?
Doing good. Glad to be with both of you.
Good. Let's talk about some WildStar. Yeah, it's been a while. We're doing shows on Sundays. This is a Sunday we're doing the show. Still mixed up on the scheduling, so stay alert on the Twitters and the Facebooks, and we'll try and get everything back in order very soon. And big announcement this week, by the way. Big GameBreaker announcement coming this week. So you're definitely going to, if you're a YouTuber or a live streamer or a podcaster, you're going to want to pay attention to our Facebook and Twitter and wait for that big announcement because it's big. So, all of the above. All right, so let's talk about some WildStar. Let's talk about Strain for a little bit. It's been out for a while. People are playing it, but it's the first big major content patch 1 month into after launch, basically. Keeping on track, keeping their word. Came out. Hits the servers, ton of new content. You got new zones, new story, new housing stuff, new cosmetics, mounts, hoverboards. Everybody loves the hoverboards. I don't know. What's the? I'm just gonna let you guys kind of like just go for it, just let it rip. And I know what's your review on the first big major content patch?
I liked it. It was a good view on what they can put out on a month-to-month basis, and if this is the kind of thing that's pretty regular, then I'll be quite happy with it because as far as like the solo player content goes, if we're just going to work our way through the levels, it was nice. They had like a few episodes of quest lines, so like 3 major quest lines that were in the new zone, and they were actually really good. They were like, I think, of a higher quality than some of the more grindy stuff that you saw sort of towards the end of the leveling experience with Grimwald and stuff. Like there was some mob grinding to do, but it wasn't a lot of it, and there was a lot of like really scripted, highly like hilarious quest lines, like the elevator music drone thing where you're piloting the thing and dropping the parts, and there's all these hilarious remarks. That is probably now my favorite quest in the entire game, just because how funny it is, and each time I do it on one of my alts, it's just like hilarious. So that was really good, and just seeing the way that they continued on with the Dracera story. It's still not going to do any spoilers, I think, on what the world story was, just in case there's plenty of people who are still leveling through it. But I think Jerry McGafty said that still only 20% of the population has hit level 50 yet, so there's still quite a few people, but yeah.
Yeah, the amount of content, the size of that zone, and just it being permanent content. If we're getting that monthly, that's just going to be great because every month I can at least look back and go, "There's something new for me to do," and it was chock full of stuff. It looked different. It had the story continuing on with it, and it just provided you a reason to continue playing. My only downside I saw of it is when I first went into the zone, I went down into an instance, and I realized it was the exact same cave structure from the previous zone that had been duplicated. And I was really like, this looks familiar.
Yeah, I mean, like every game does that in MMOs, they reuse a little bit of the terrain and stuff, but they didn't like do that too much. Like a lot of it was new terrain, a lot of it, especially in the later parts where it's actually like a lot of exonite pillars all over the place. So it's like very not purple in the later part of the zone. It's more of like this glowing yellow, nice feels, everything, like the way that the story goes. Again, staying away from spoilers, but it is a haven from the Blight. It's not a haven for the Blight Haven. It is a haven from the Blight, which is pretty nice, the way they go. The only thing that I didn't really like story-wise with it, and it was more of just like this niggling feeling that I got at first was that, you know, they continue on with the end of what they had for the world story, like with the Drusera instances in Blight Haven. They sort of give a little bit more background on what's happening, and that's in like the 5-man instance, or not instance, but like open world 5-man dungeon, the nursery. And the first time I went through it with my friends, you know, like doing the actual quest, we're hitting these panels, and you see this little bit of story about like, okay, this is what happened to Drusera, you know. And again, not giving spoilers, but the thing is, like, there's like text to read, right? And we're like killing mobs, and 4 out of the 5 people on my party did not, or I guess 3 out of the 5 people wanted to just keep going, and me and one other guy were like trying to read the thing and then going. And then like, I ended up going in there solo later and just hitting the panels so I could read it with, you know, while running away from mobs and things. But still, it was like, it was the whole point of having all that stuff in the solo instances so that you could take your time and actually enjoy it and read it if you're doing it. But yeah, I mean, it's still nice that, you know, they actually have this really nice 5-man area content that is somewhat repeatable.
So without go ahead, Justin.
I was say, Dular in chat just now asked how much of that zone was done prior to launch, or how much we think, and I would say most of it, which would make sense. And the fact that Carbine has said that they are coming out with monthly content on a cycle. So if this was your new zone solo PvE content for this time, and the next one is PvP, if we go on even a 3-month cycle or a 4-month cycle before they come back around to another zone with solo player, I mean, that makes sense that they would have been developing the zone for at least 3 or 4 months before this anyways, and getting it all up to snuff and ready to go.
I mean,
testing.
Yeah, everything's going to have some level of pre-production done to it anyway. It's not like they can just whip up a whole thing from scratch in a month. That would be a terrible way of doing it, because, you know, you'd end up with way more bugs and way more problems if that was the way that they do it. Like, I think, you know, the current PTR patch has, it's not coming with the next drop, but it has like already a new raid in testing and a new dungeon in testing. But those aren't going to be with the next patch. They're sometime down the road, maybe patch 3 or 4. And the thing is that they just want to get some iteration on it. They're doing some testing, so they're already developing that stuff. I think that's a lot of that stuff doesn't even have like spell animations for the raid encounters and stuff, so it's just like all telegraphed, not really spell animated yet. So I mean, it takes time to develop these things. And yeah, okay, Blight Haven probably was really far along the way. I know that one of the things that I felt a little bit weird about was that, okay, it was on the PTR for such a short amount of time because they didn't really bring up the PTR as soon to launch as I expected. So a lot of the bugs, like I popped onto the PTR and reported some bugs for some of the stuff at the quest. A lot of those things are still there at launch. So I think that because they were probably trying to push it out, making sure they hit that first deadline, you know, to make sure everyone sees it before the first month subscription, the free month, you know, ends. But still, like, I mean, for the most part, you know, obviously they had level of pre-production, but they did a pretty good job. It's not too buggy. It's mostly pretty good. So no game stopping bugs anyway.
Without you know, getting into too much, I guess, spoiler stuff. What's going on in Blight Haven?
So obviously, you know about the threat of the strain. I think that is safe to talk about, just because, you know, the strain is the name of the patch. It's this bio thing that is corrupting things and such. And Drusera is like this character. I won't talk too much about her background, but the thing is that she is fighting the strain in essence. And Blight Haven is sort of an area that she is sort of fighting from. You know, there's this area that she's trying to clear the strain, trying to protect it. And so, like, there's this 5-man area that sort of gives some background on Drusera. It's called the Nursery. Guess, you know, you can sort of guess what that alludes to with Drusera. And there's this tower defense area that has like this a tree of life. We can talk about a little bit about the parity after this, but I've got some problems with that. And there's like this little area with this group of Pel. Usually the Pel are this race of servants from the Elden who, you know, worship a single element. Like they worship air, they worship fire, whatever, and so they do that. But the Pel in Blight Haven are sort of like balance, and they specifically work with Drusera to balance all the elements out and make sure things are going well and such. So there's some really neat storylines going on there. I haven't seen it from the Exile point of view. I know that for the Dominion, Mondo Zax, the Chua is trying to figure out a way to weaponize the strain, which is, you can guess how well a Chua can actually manage to do that kind of thing. So there's some fun stuff going on.
You have from the Exile side to Mordesh just trying to get to know more about like Akir for themselves.
Okay. Yeah.
And what about Northern Wastes? What's going on there?
Yeah. I mean, it's just honestly, I don't really know if there's much of a storyline going on there. There's like something happened with an Elden facility in the area, and both sides are just trying to take control of it. And so there's dailies. It's another daily zone of recycled starter zone where they have dailies. I actually like it a lot better than Crimson Badlands. I know that some people hate it because it's a lot more cramped, but I actually like that because the mob density is much higher. I don't spend so much time running around. In Northern Wastes, like everything is so compact that I can just mow through mobs and get my dailies done in a much faster way. And I also think that they're a little bit like they're sort of taking it like, okay, this is a daily area, let's just do it. So all the challenges are kill challenges and stuff, so I just can get through it really quickly, whereas like Crimson Badlands tried to do a little bit of like okay, here's like a pick up boxes challenge, here's like another shoot a beam at someone challenge, and those are neat, but they're just sort of like a hassle to do after you've done them 3-4 times. The loot's really good for the reputation bender. I just, it'll take a month of doing those dailies to actually get it.
So would you guys say overall fairly impressed by first patch? If this is what this is kind of setting the pace of what's to come, do you expect every patch to be this jam packed?
I'm kind of expecting it now, especially as a PvPer. I'm expecting this next patch to be just as jam packed. So
yeah,
so
definitely. I do think that like some of the stuff like it's obvious that they were trying really hard to impress with it because they have some really neat stuff. Like they have like the 5-man area and they have the tower defense. And the tower defense is like really, really neat in concept, but in practice it is like just everyone chooses it. Like the way the tower defense works is that you have this tree of life or whatever that you're trying to protect from the strain that are incoming from different lanes, and you build these little sproutlings, you're supposed to defend them, do this kind of stuff. But if you fail the tower defense, if they attack the tree and they succeed, then there's these little purple anti-primals that you can then kill to retake the tree between waves, and that is what everyone does now. Like the fastest way to do that thing is to build all the towers that do nothing, so they just instantly die, and then have all the strain kill the tree, then retake the tree, and then that's how you progress to the next phase. And you do that 3 times, and it takes about like 20 minutes to do, as opposed to like maybe 35-40 minutes if you actually try to win. Actually, I haven't even seen anyone who did try to win actually successfully win, probably because you actually need some coordination. It is a 20-man event, and
you think a bit of an oversight then? Something they can tweak and change and kind of get into a better place?
I don't know, because like right now, so part of the problem I really have with Blight Haven is that they have this really nice reputation gear, right? Like if you grind the rep and you level up your rep, then you end up getting like some really nice rewards. They have some like best in slot Esper healing things before raids and stuff like that. So they have like really good gear there, but there's no dailies in Blight Haven really. There's no like normal dailies, like solo dailies. They have a 5-man thing that you can kill the boss in the nursery. You can get an item from her that gives you some rep. There's a 20-man raid boss that you can try to kill, but the respawn time is long enough, and on a PvP server it's just sort of mess up. I don't really deal with that. It's not really worth my time. And there's a tower defense thing that you can do. And it's a pain because like the tower defense would be really, really cool, and I'd want them to fix it and make it like less of a pain to do or less easy to cheese if I didn't have to do it every single day. Right now I'm pretty happy with it because I just go there, I like show up, we fail, win, fail, win, fail, win, and then I'm done, and I got my rep. But yeah, if they had some other way of increasing the rep and doing something even if it was grinding mobs, I don't really care. I just want a way to get my rep in a normal fashion, and then I would actually enjoy it. I would want them to tweak the tower defense, make it actually a cool event that it's worth doing. But right now it would be such a pain, especially because I'm on a PvP server where the exiles outnumber us like 3 or something to 1. It would probably be a pain if you actually had to coordinate a lot and work together. The other thing that I was thinking is it would be cool if they actually did that, and then they made the tower defense area sanctuary so that you don't have PvP going on just there, but everywhere else in the area have PvP going on constantly. We have a lot of fun PvP around the raid boss. just sometimes we go there not actually to to do the raid boss, but just to go kill exiles who are trying to do the raid boss, which is quite fun.
So not a ton in this patch for PvPers, but we're going to talk, I think, about the next update, which is chock full of stuff for PvPers, including the new Battleground. But this one did also come plenty of bug fixes, some quality of life improvements, technical stuff in the update as well. Anything else major that really stood out in the patch for you, though, that you guys want to bring up before we move on to the PvP stuff?
It wasn't in this patch, but it was in a patch, I think, this past week regarding your mounts. You no longer have to select which mount you want to, you prefer to use every single time you log in game. It remembers it. Hallelujah.
Yes.
Nice
a bunch of little UI fixes that make that stuff. The potion UI actually works by default now. Woo! Potion UI.
You don't have to reload.
Every time.
It's funny how after post-launch, those little things are like some of the most like sort of endeared like patches in patch notes for gamers. They're just like the littlest things. They're like, you don't know how happy that makes me.
Yeah. But other than that, I think just generally speaking, in terms of progress that Carbine's made, I'm really happy with the measures that they've taken to deal with the botters, like the teleport mining botters. In the like a couple of weeks ago. With that? Well, they're just mass banning. They're mass banning tons of people. Even like I saw a thread on Reddit where somebody was saying that they bought gold and they got banned.
Really?
Not even like selling it. They actually bought it from a gold seller and they got banned, perm banned for that. So they're doing a good job. They're really banning people because I think like 3 weeks ago, Wilderrun, Malgrave, Grimvault, like you never found any nodes of anything. It was just they were all gone. They're just like you were going through the zone. There's nothing there if you're trying to farm anything, because what these people would do is they'd be teleporting around, just shooting everything with like a hacked Lobby account, or maybe not hacked if some users were probably using them as well just to get a lot of money, and yeah, it was terrible. And then now today, like you'll see like one or two over the whole day, but like for the most part, if you want to go mine minerals or get some plants or do whatever, you can actually find them like really reliably. So it's a much needed improvement. They've done a great job with that.
I don't know how much it helped, but I know there was a modder in the community who actually came out with a add-on for the game that could actually it sit there like you all you gotta do is turn it on, be playing in the world, and it would alert you to suspicious activity, and it would use like this whole criteria system and go it's like, here's how we believe this person's a bot, do you want to report them? You click more info for all the reasons why it says it thinks it's a bot, and you could just choose to report them, and it would send all that information directly to Carbine right away for you just by clicking it.
And I know that a lot of people are saying that they're like getting falsely banned, and I'm sure that there are some false positives in there, and you know my heart goes out to them that it sucks if you're falsely accused and they have to deal with the support ticket line because it's long, you know, and the CS probably needs some help with that. It's taken a while, but you know as far as like my guild goes, none of us have gotten falsely accused or banned, and I know that one of our stalkers, especially in PvP, like probably like half the Battlegrounds that he joins, he probably gets reported for speed hacking or something, because every time, like right out the gate, he like pops 4 or 5 different movement speed things and gets to the mass like instantly, right when the thing pops open, because he's like using a potion and a gadget and the ability tier point thing and then all this other stuff. He just gets to the mass immediately, and I know that one of our other guildmates like got a message like from somebody who made like a Dominion alt just to tell you like hey, your guildmate, you know, blah, is hacking. It's like, no, he's not hacking. He's just popping everything possible, getting to the mask almost immediately. Yeah. So, and he hasn't gone banned yet, so that's good.
All right, we're going to talk about all this PvP stuff. Let's jump into that real quick. I want to take a second and tell you about our sponsor, Audible. If you guys have not checked out Audible, been a sponsor for a really long time on GameBreaker, you need to check them out. And I'm going to hook you up with a free 30-day trial and a free audiobook just by using the URL audible.com/GameBreaker. That's all you got to do. Just go to that URL, sign up, make an account, download the app, put it on your iOS device, your Android device, your Kindle Fire, whatever you got, and pick a free audiobook and get to listening. And who's not a Game of Thrones fan? That's what this question should be. Are you a Game of Thrones fan? Of course, of course. All the Game of Thrones books are on here. If you guys want to catch up on the Game of Thrones in its entirety, I'd say book 1 is probably a good place to start. Clocking in at like almost 34 hours. You can pick it as your free book. Let's take a quick listen.
Books on Tape presents A Game of Thrones. Book 1 of A Song of Ice and Fire by George R.R. Martin, read by Roy Dotrice. Prologue. "We should start back," Garrett urged as the woods began to grow dark around them. "The wildlings are dead." "Do the dead frighten you?" Sir Waymar Royce asked with just the hint of a smile. Garrett did not rise to the bait. He was an old man, past 50, and he had seen the lordlings come and go. "Dead is dead," he said. "We have no business with the dead."
Dead is dead. Pick it up today, absolutely free. Just go to audible.com/GameBreaker. Like I said, sign up, make an account. After your free 30 days, if you like it, you sign up and you do a monthly fee. I'm sure once you try it, you're gonna love it. I love it. I've been a supporter and a member now for almost, I think, 6 years, probably 5-6 years. Love the Audible and love having the amount of sponsors. You can help support GameBreaker by supporting our sponsor Audible. That URL again is audible.com/GameBreaker. All right, so there wasn't a whole heck of a lot in the strain patch for PvPers, but lots of stuff coming in the next patch for PvPers. So first up, major PvP balance changes are in the works. This did not make it into the strain update, correct?
Yeah.
Correct. It's not even on the PTR yet.
Yeah.
So, I mean, most people, to fill me in here, I think most people were pretty happy with the state of PvP at launch. Obviously, once everybody starts playing the game, starts really learning the ins and outs of their classes and all the little tips and tricks they can pick up, that there are some issues that pop up once you learn the game a little bit better. Farhan, I'll throw it over to you. I don't know. Do you have a chart, PvP stats, graphs? What's happening?
I mean, I made like tons of graphs. Like, there's this thread that's been going on the PvP forums since like the end or somewhat in the middle of open beta, and it's probably like 25 pages now or 30 pages. I don't know. I haven't looked at it in a while, but in there, like I sort of talked about, like, because we honestly didn't know what exactly was going on with the PvP stats in beta. Like the way that they're like the tooltips read, it made it sound like it was really similar to deflect, chance, and strike through, like just one counters the other 1-to-1 additively or whatever, and it's not that. You know, like they multiply off each other in this sort of weird way, and they have a sort of weird, like, logarithmic curve for the diminishing returns, such that it's just like really wonky. You only needed a few pieces of gear to really make it optimal. And like, you know, I'm playing a 50 warrior, which, you know, boo, everyone just boo at me because I am part of the problem, I guess, for the PvP, because, you know, I have pretty decent gear now. I'm not at 1800 yet because I haven't, you know, asked anyone to boost me, and I was doing a lot of PvE at the beginning of the game, so I didn't. It's really hard to actually go up in the rankings. Oh my god, there's a lot of problems, honestly, with the way that the PvP rating system for arenas is going, because there's people tanking their rating, there's people boosting, there's win trading going on. I think the other day I tried to get into like 3 or 4 matches, like with a friend of mine, and every single one, the other side would just decline, because I guess I'm not the team that they were trying to win trade with, so I couldn't even get into a match after a while of waiting in the queue. So we just were like, screw it, we'll just do an adventure. And yeah, so there's been a lot of problems. Specifically with the stats, though, is just that, you know, all of the stats aren't appealing. For healers, nobody even wants the gear because it doesn't actually improve their throughput at all with the PvP offense. That's something that's going to be getting a change. They're going to look into some way to improve it and make it useful for healers. They haven't given details yet on exactly what that's going to be, and it's not on the PTR yet, so I'm a little bit worried, because it is supposed to beat this August patch. And if it doesn't, that's actually going to be really, really crippling for Carbine, because the PvP community is just throwing up their arms at this point. There are so many things going wrong here and there and there and there. And I think the game is still fun. Like, I'm leveling a bunch of alts just through PvP just because it's so much fun. When you're at the lower levels, you don't really worry about that stuff. You're just playing for fun, and you're doing the thing. When you get to 50, then it's just like you have to deal with the gear grind, deal with the ratings, deal with all this other stuff that just sort of I mean, they're sort of outside of the gameplay. The gameplay is great. The gameplay is pretty good. Class balance needs work, and it's going to get where warriors are getting nerfed, yay, or whatever, and spellslingers still haven't been nerfed yet. What? But, you know, they're probably going to get nerfed at some point, you know, because they should be. But other than that, yeah. So they're gonna make the diminishing returns better. They're going to make it so that PvP gear is actually optimal instead of it being like 3 pieces of PvP gear and everything else PvE ruined with assault power, I guess, which is the way that it is right now. They really should be doing something to make the 1800 PvP weapons not the best in slot rating weapon until 40-man, because that is the case right now, and that is like a huge part of the motivation for a lot of people. Like, people are just like, okay, I'll pay the 20 plat or whatever and have the best in slot weapon for until 40-man. And I can't really blame them, right? These are PvE people who aren't even that interested in PvP. They just want their weapon, and they're trying to be efficient. They're trying to do good by their guild, trying to do whatever's best for them so that they can progress, right? And even if they don't really need that weapon, they're going to go and try and get it. So, and it's really making a bad thing for the PvP scene. So I really hope that they nerf those weapons and just boost the PvP stats, because once the PvP stats are useful, I think a lot of this stuff will go away. Like warriors, I mean, they're getting nerfed, but warriors are super powerful warriors and engineers because assault power is just like broken overpowered for them, right? Because they usually get so little, and if you just ruin everything with straight assault power, then they're gods among us. You know, they're just insanely, the scaling for damage is way higher than what it is for the other classes. And you know, once that PvP stat is better, then everyone can benefit from them, because everyone equally will benefit from PvP off it. So the spellslingers will be the gods at that point, I guess, if the way the class balance stays. So, I mean, but the thing is, like things will change, things will get better, I think, with the PvP stat balance changes. I just really hope that they get them onto the PTR so they get sufficiently tested, because yeah, don't want more bugs. And the PvP scene is just hanging on there. I think, honestly, like, it would have been a disaster if they didn't have the cred system, because with cred, a lot of PvPers bought their another month subscription, you know, with cred, because it was so accessible. Like it was pretty easy to grind the 5 to 8 plat, or what, depending on whatever your server is. I know on Pago, you know, if you want, hey, more people come to Pago, you know, because server population, I want more people to come over here, especially Dominion. Our cred prices are only 5 plat. I've heard that they're up to 10 plat on other servers. So hey, come over here. Nice, good subscription going.
Lobbying for players to come over.
Other than that, yeah, I think that it'll help a lot. Yeah.
Are you guys finding that the issues are plaguing both hardcore players and casual PvPers, or is this something more that's only being seen by the hardcore top end stuff?
I would say what's mostly driving people nuts, like for me personally, I leveled all the way up to 44 through just PvP alone. And it was aggravating to see PvE players come in with their PvE gear and just be so much stronger, because even though I fully decked myself out, I was buying every bit of PvP gear at level, even though I knew I shouldn't have been. But I didn't want to go out and get the PvE gear just to be able to compete. Like, and that wasn't the idea, and yet they were coming in just stronger. So for someone who was fully focused on PvP for so long, it was really just disheartening in that fact. And like, even from my point, like, I want to do the rated stuff. I want to do rated Battlegrounds. I want to do rated arenas. But I have already told myself that I am just waiting until this patch comes in and they fix the stat system before I even try to fight through that mess that is right now.
I mean, it's possible, you know, to get to a decent rating. Like I think a lot of the casual PvPers are probably trying to get into rated Battlegrounds. They're probably buying, you know, the blue gear off of the vendor, not really knowing what stats are good, what stats are bad. Just believing that, okay, this is PvP gear, I'll buy it and I'll be good. And then they go in and you know, someone like me who has like 1,500, you know, the Battleground gear and a lot of PvP gear from the adventures and dungeons, it's just going there, and my power strike, they're probably hitting for like 30-40% harder than theirs are. Like another warrior. Like, the warriors aren't overpowered when they're just in normal gear that's not ruined, not everything, just normal stuff. And that's gotta suck, right? You're going in there, you're trying your best, and you just aren't really sure what the hell's going on. And then you're like, okay, maybe I just need better gear, so I'll try rated. You solo queue into rated, or you go with 2 or 3 friends or whatever, and you start doing this ping pong thing because they gave the formula out for how ratings changes get calculated. And one of the things that's there is that while you're lower rating, your rating changes much more. So in theory, it should help you get up once you finally improve and you figure out what you're doing, because your rating is low, so it should increase very quickly. But the thing is, and then you face against a couple of better gears, and you just ping pong down and up, and it's really frustrating because personally, I got all of my gear just by grinding rated Battlegrounds, and I got to 1500, and I bought all my stuff. So I was set that way. But at one point, I got to 1496. I was 4 points away from 1500, and then I dropped back down to 1400 because I lost 2 matches, and I dropped like 40 points per match. And that's just like, oh my god, I'm so close to getting all my gear. And I did. What the second I got that 1500, I was just like 10-15% better. Like, I just did more damage. I was able to kill spell slingers that I used to not be able to kill. I was able to kill healers that I used to just be able to scratch. Like, I would just like, do, and then they just push 2 heals, and then they're full health again. And it's really annoying. So one of the things that they said that they're changing with the next patch is that instead of all of the gear being at 1500 and all of the gear being at 1800, it's staggered, right? Like, you might get gloves. I don't remember which one's which, but you might get gloves at 1250, and then boots at 1300, and something else at 1350, and so forth. So that there's actually a little bit of progression. Right now that with the current gear, like with the current stats, that wouldn't really help, just because a lot of the pieces aren't good. Like, gloves and pants are always terrible because they don't have your main stat on them. But if they do successfully make those PvP stats really viable and really useful and much better than PvE gear, then suddenly that'll be great, because you can actually progress. You can actually just go through rateds, get your gear a little bit by little bit, and you won't feel so frustrated when you're like 2-3 points away from the next level, and then you suddenly lose and you drop down. And I know that's something that a lot of people in my guild are just like frustrated. They're really, really annoyed, and they're getting frustrated. Some of them haven't logged on for like a week or something, just because they're just like, what? I got so close, and then I still haven't gotten that gear yet, just because there's these people who are way, way more geared than me who are just stomping on me. So it's affecting the casuals, it's affecting the hardcores, it's everywhere.
I think the biggest thing, like, what bothers me from the hardcore perspective is that there are just 2 main factors that do not fit into this idea of rated PvP, and that is the gear disparity, as you just went all on, like the gear disparity between your matches. You could get matched up against somebody with higher gear, better gear than you have, but even further than that is the faction restriction. And while I know it's a MMORPG and they have these factions going against each other, but it's not possible to create the best matchups with the faction restriction system. You're always restricted to only going up against the opposite faction, and you have to hope that there's somebody around your rating, around your gear system, and that you're going up against. Otherwise, you're just going to have a disparity in the match as soon as it starts. And that's
so. Is that going to be an ongoing problem with the matchmaking system in general?
I think, like, honestly, a lot of the problems that are coming up with matchmaking in terms of not being able to find fair matches is because a lot of people are dropping out. Like, a lot of people are getting frustrated, and they're just like, I'm not going to do it. I'm not going to, be the lamb to the wolf and just die instantly the second a 1800 warrior spellslinger looks at me. And I think that if they fix some of those things, a lot more people will be queuing, and then the system will be healthier, and these things... These systems, they only work when you have a critical mass of people who are actually queuing for them. Mm-hmm. And that's not the case right now, especially in Arena, that it's so hard to go up. Like we're talking about rated Battlegrounds, but Arena is even worse in terms of, like, it's just punishing. Like, you're trying to go up, and then you face, like, these teams, and then, like, a lot of the time you'll finally get into a queue, and then the other side just leaves because they're tanking their thing. You don't get anything out of it, and you're just like, screw it. And then you finally do get into a game, and it's that same team that was tanking their rating, now they're going up, and they beat you, and because they have tanked their rating lower than you, then you lose a bunch of points for doing that. So it's really frustrating. They need to figure out some way to deal with the people who are, like, tanking their rating and doing the thing. And they've said that they're going to be looking into ways to deal with win traders, so ways to deal with if you leave the queue without accepting it, then maybe some sort of penalty, you lose rating, and maybe there's like a debuff that keeps you from queuing again. They do need to fix the deserter debuffs in general. I'm not going to say what the way around it is, but there is something. So yeah.
And what's happening on the itemization front? Because I was surprised to see this. They're already talking about stat inflation, which is something we don't normally talk about. Stat inflation until like years into a game's lifespan, 3-4 expansion packs. How did this come up? In what context did this come up, and what are they talking about?
The stat inflation thing, I think it was just a little bit poorly worded. The numbers were just really high for the PvP stat rating because it was like a series of band-aids that they were just kept applying to the PvP stat because they were like, okay, we don't have time before launch to really rework this, I guess, when problems started coming up. Just as a really brief history lesson, back way early in beta, there was very little PvP stat on anything. Like PvP, you'd get like maybe like a 15-20% increase in your stuff if you started stacking it. But mostly it was PvP stats on the thing. There wasn't a big difference between PvE gear and PvP gear besides rune slots. PvE gear had the random but more rune slots. The PvP gear had consistent but fewer rune slots. And then what they decided to do, they said that isn't enough difference. PvE gear people are doing too well in PvP, so let's just make PvP stats be most of the stats. And it's like sort of like a econ thing that probably just like for an econ designer that makes sense. Just put more of the PvP stat because the PvP stat's supposed to be better without actually checking that it is in fact better. And so they did that, and they just made it like 1,000 rating instead of like 100 or 30 or whatever the case is. So what they're basically saying at this point is that they're going to turn those numbers down and then just make it be the same percent conversion. It'll be probably similar to like what critical strike rating and strike through rating is. Like you'll see numbers in the 20s, 30s, maybe 40s, but you won't see like the hundreds and hundreds right now. Like your normal piece of PvP gear has like 900 something offense and 900 something defense. So they're just going to turn those numbers down because that was like a band-aid fix that they did before, and they're actually going to rework the entire curve now. So.
So what do you guys think of the overall, like what are the changes they're putting forth with the next patch to kind of try and help PvP out? Do they, on paper, do most of them feel like they're going to fix a lot of the issues that PvPers are having right now?
I think a lot of us are waiting to see what the actual numbers they do come out with are, and these changes, as well as the other fixes. Like they just have a list of items that they're still saying are in internal testing and will be on the PTR soon.
Yeah,
we know, so we're waiting.
Yeah. We really need to see exactly what the stats end up being, but on paper, just from like the overview post that they've made, like I'm really happy because I was a little bit worried, like say a week ago, because they kept Carbine does their weekly stream, the Nexus report, and where they give stuff, and for the most part they were pretty silent on exactly what they were going to be doing to deal with a lot of these problems, win trading and all these other things. But they've come up with a few blog posts now, or I guess forum posts, where they're discussing exactly, okay, this is our general plan to deal with this problem and this problem and that problem. And there's still a few things that they haven't really talked about in terms of like the /follow thing in PvP and stuff like that. But for the most part, they're dealing with it, and I'm really happy to see that, and I really hope that they do get it in for this next patch because they need it. Like that, the PvP community is a fickle community. They will leave the game just like that.
PvP game.
Yeah, exactly.
All right, let's talk about some of these changes that are coming. Go ahead.
Can I just say one thing though, like on the positive note for the new patch? Daggerstone Pass is an awesome battleground. That battleground is hilariously fun. Like it's on the PTR. It's going to be on the next patch, and it is really fun. Like I do think that the secondary nodes are a little bit weak right now because I just don't really know.
What's the overall layout for like what's the layout for people who haven't jumped on PTS?
Okay, so it's a big battleground. It's a 15 versus 15. You can actually use mount, so it's much larger than the current battlegrounds. And the basic idea of it is that you're trying to blow up the enemy base. There's 3 like secondary objectives in the middle, like the bunker, no man's land, and the mines. And it sort of has this like ramping thing. So if you're higher ground, then you can sort of see down and see where people are. And those nodes, if you take them, then it sort of ticks down the health of the enemy team. and then there's these fusion cores inside of your base. And the main way that you win the game is that you pick up bombs and you carry them into the enemy base. You load them up in their fusion core, and try to defend it, make sure that they don't disarm the bomb and blow it up and do it. It's a lot of fun. There's a lot more mechanics at play because there's the mounts, so you can try to do it. There's like a lot of ways that you could try to sneak around the map and do some neat stuff to carry around the thing. There's a lot of neat strategies that people are coming up with. So one of the things that I actually saw already is that people sort of figured out that the bombs spawn in your base, and you can sort of carry them up. You're supposed to carry them across the map to do it. But what I saw a lot of people already doing is they're like trying to gank people who pick up the bomb by themselves, because the second that you kill the person who had the bomb, it's neutral. And then you could just pick up the bomb and immediately take it there. So there's like people just sort of waiting outside of the enemy base, waiting for them to pick up a bomb, and then immediately killing them, and then taking their bomb into their own base and blowing it up. So there's a lot of neat strategies and things that they can do. I think that they need to like sort of fine tune some of that stuff so that maybe it only becomes neutral after you get to the midpoint or something like that. I don't know. And the UI is buggy because like everything always looks like it's owned by the Exiles, which is what? but it's a lot of fun. It's you carry bombs across. Yeah, you can actually dash and sprint with the bomb, so it's not like the Moody Mouse where you feel like you're completely gimped. You can't teleport move, but you can for the most part. Move around and engage in normal WildStar gameplay while you're holding the bomb, and it's just a lot of fun. And it's hilarious whenever you see a person carrying the bomb, because the bombs have timers. And you see someone just explode because they didn't get the bomb across in enough time. It's a lot of fun.
How long do matches last?
Around 15 to 20 minutes.
Oh, that's
what I was saying.
It sounds pretty fast-paced, kind of, with a lot of stuff going on.
Well, I mean, it's a PTR. Almost no one knows what they're doing in the new Battleground because,
right.
It's a new Battleground. Go figure. No one knows what they're doing. So, I don't know. A lot of people were fighting over the secondary nodes, and, like, they do tick away at the enemy health, but it just, like, one bomb is 10% of the enemy's health bar, so it's, like, just seems way better to focus on the bombs and really just ignore the secondary nodes. But I'm sure that they'll figure stuff out. It's just starting the PTR testing and stuff like that.
I just think it's kind of like a breath of fresh air for most people who've done the Battlegrounds for quite a bit. Just have that larger open arena base and different things to do.
Yeah, and being in Walatiki and Halls, they're good Battlegrounds, but I've been doing them for a year now, so I'm glad to have a little bit of a break.
All right, let's talk about some of the stuff that's going on with the coming to dungeons and the adventure rewards. So what's going on here? So right now, basically, veteran runs, you kind of don't get the best loot unless you're just like extremely well. And get a gold medal. You pretty much need a gold medal. And what's going on? It looks like is that this is basically leading to Pugs giving up if they get below gold. Is that right? So a lot of people just bailing out.
Yeah, because I mean, honestly, like there were a lot of different things that could have been done to fix this. The fix that they're coming up with is good, but the main problem is that when you get to 50, there's this Grimvault reputation gear and there's crafted gear that most people will buy because they feel like they just mentally they want to be ready to do the next thing. They don't want to just go in with their quest blues or quest greens or whatever. And so that adventure blues, like the stuff that normally drops in adventures and you get if you don't get gold, it's all useless because it's outdone by you've bought this reputation gear and you've got all the really nice crafted gear. And I'm happy that crafted gear is viable because I'm making money like hand over fist, just tons and tons of plat. But it's sort of sucks that all that adventure gear is sort of pointless because it's not an upgrade for all of. I mean, some of the pieces are like a really good blue is pretty nice if it gets nice rune sauce and stuff, but for the most part, people are looking at that gold gear, and that gold gear is really, really nice gear. So if you don't get gold, you fold. I like that.
You don't get gold, you fold. So basically, what are they doing? They're going to be moving the medal-related rewards basically to the final boss or the encounter?
Yeah, go ahead.
I was gonna say, yeah, you can get it either way because it's going to be on there for that final boss for you. You can get it no matter if you get bronze, silver, or gold, but depending on which one you get, if you get bronze, you have a small chance of getting it. But if you get silver and gold, you basically increase your chances of getting that gear. Just you have a higher chance, better chance of getting that reward. So you can still get it with the lower quality. Just getting gold increases your chance, and I think there's a little bit more possibly with it, but.
Yeah, the gold loot is basically added on, like, if you get bronze medal, you get one extra roll on the entire loot table from the dungeon, plus what the old gold rewards were. If you get silver, then you get 2 items out of the whole dungeon's loot table plus the gold rewards. If you get gold, you get 3 rolls. And so there's like a little bit of controversy because the people who were consistently getting gold in adventures, I don't think that there are that many people who are consistently getting gold in dungeons, but especially for adventures, it sort of sucks for them because they don't get that guaranteed chance of getting if for my guild we get gold every single time in the adventures now because we've just done them so many times it's almost impossible for us to not get it. We'd have to really screw up. And for us, like, if we're going for a specific piece of gear, we want to know that a purple will drop, but now there's a chance that it might not drop. So it sort of depends on how it shakes out. It will be nice that some of that other blue gear from the other paths that no one is doing will actually show up. Maybe we can actually get some complete loot tables in there. I'm one of those people that actually enjoy doing the content. I don't really care that much about the loot, so it makes me happy that maybe people might actually let me try to do a different adventure path, because that was supposed to be the point of adventures. You're supposed to be able to do whatever, but the system doesn't really like completely address that, because you still want to be efficient. You still want to get it done. You don't want to it's not based on how much time you spend. If I spend an hour and a half in Malgrave Trail instead of 30 minutes, I'm still not getting very much more loot as a result. Like, I'm getting the blues, I guess, but I'm not getting more purples or whatever. So
I guess on the flip side, though, it's also like, if your pug kind of isn't the greatest pug in the world, it's not really the end of the world, and most people would actually go through and finish out the encounter.
And that's the point. They're trying to make it better for the people who aren't doing guild groups, or the people who are doing the pugging, and so that they don't just leave the second. Because if you had one caravan member die on Malgrave Trail, keep another 9 alive so that you don't get below 20. You'll still get silver medal. You'll still get 2 extra rolls of loot, and you still have a pretty decent chance of getting your item. And I know that it sucks, because on Siege of Tempest Refuge, for example, there were times where we were on the second to last phase of the thing, and then one rocket trooper, we just screw up, have a momentary lapse of communication. We thought someone else was going there to pick up the mob, and he didn't go or something, and they shoot one rocket at the generator, and you just lose gold. It's just okay, vote disband, start over kind of thing, even though you spent a good 20 minutes in there. And so now there's a reason to actually stay even after that, if you're almost done at least. So
you think it's possible that this could end up making almost have gold medal pugs with gear checks and things like that? People actually doing DPS and gear checks?
Honestly, people are already doing that. A lot of people are organizing dungeon circles and adventure circles and stuff like that. Just these are competent people who can actually do it, and I don't know, it sort of makes me happy, because it's okay, you actually see zone chat alive a little bit with people trying to find groups and doing stuff and coordinating, trying to find people who want equal goals to what they want. And I think that was sort of the point. But they have this LFG system, and they need to actually make it work for the people who are using that system. Otherwise, it's sort of dumb, right? That you have the system that it's not a good system to use. So this will at least make people so that, okay, if you're queuing up for it, then you'll still probably want to
seems like finish a good system, though. I mean, the whole thing just seems like a good system, because it kind of encourages players to really kind of, like you said, just join more proficient circles and guilds and groups of friends that actually kind of play together. So anytime there's tools to
and those dungeons are no joke. My God.
I actually think this is where they could possibly do a little bit better by finding a way in game to allow circles to advertise themselves. If you can specify that this circle is made specifically for veteran adventurers, and you could be up there and do a search for what communities are out there that I can join for veteran adventurers, or for dungeons and stuff like that, or for doing war plots, or just PvP. I'm trying to find a PvP circle to see if there's just one out there, but there's no way to do it unless I look through the forums, hope somebody posts a circle. Yeah, so it'd be nice.
Or you just spam chat. You're I want to join a PvP circle.
Someone invite me, please.
Yeah.
This circle's dedicated to PvP.
I think there is an add-on for something like that to advertise your circle and sort of just be able to search for circles. It might be specifically for the mining circles, like those people who are doing the neighbor house mining circles or whatever, and doing that. But I think that there might be one that you could actually do for dungeons, adventures, and stuff.
Mr. Farah and Siddiqui, follow him on the Twitter, Unindel, UNINDEL, and right here on UDSP every week, the WildStar Show, which we don't really have a set day of the week yet. So
We'll
tell you
get
what
one.
we're going to do, but I don't know. We'll get one someday. Also joining us, doesn't have a lower third, with Justin Kennedy. Follow him at JK Kennedy TV on the Twitters, JK Kennedy TV. Follow GameBreaker TV at GameBreaker TV on Twitter, Facebook, all that good stuff. And don't forget, if you're a YouTuber or a live streamer, big news coming up this week. So pay attention. We'll post it all over the place. It won't be that hard to find, but big news. All right, we'll see you next week for some more UDSP. Have a great week.